Hi, I'm Craig the geologist, and I'm out here at Gratiot River County Park in the Keweenaw Peninsula. It's a bit of a trek to get out here, long washboard road, but it is accessible to the public, and most people's vehicles can make it here. We're going to be looking for agates. We're going to be looking at some of the rock formations here. I'll even stay the night and do a little bit of a Uperlite hunt, though that'll probably be a separate video. Come join me. This is going to be a lot of fun. Gratiot River County Park is one of my favorite beaches to collect at. And that's not just in the UP or in Michigan, that's pretty much anywhere in the world at this point. There are miles of shoreline that extend to the north and to the south where you park, and all of it is publicly accessible. There are some stretches where when you go inland or up to the top of the shore, it becomes private property, but as long as you stay within the ordinary high water mark, you are free to collect. As mentioned earlier, the road out to the location is a little bit rough, but any car can do it, with the exception maybe of some low-riding sports cars. But you don't need a specially lifted vehicle or a very large truck to be able to get out there. It is a small parking lot, so parking can be difficult. There's really only spaces for about a half dozen, maybe 10 or so cars. After that, people have to start parking along the road in the woods, and there is just not a lot of space. So if you go to visit, I would recommend trying to pick a less busy time of day to do it. Here's a pro tip that I employ all the time. People tend to not bring their food out with them, and they go back to town for lunch or for dinner. So I go out there around noon or around 5 p.m. and people are leaving because they're getting hungry. Now, I will say that if you're trying to guess your way out here, your odds of getting lost are fairly high, but Google Maps and other mapping apps have the location recorded very reliably. So if you're going out here, and I encourage you to do so, bring a map. And I don't mean a paper map, I mean bring a map on your phone and follow the directions it gives you, because that'll get you to this location no problem. Without that, you're really rolling dice on where you're going to end up. While everyone who comes here always comes for the agates or the Uperlites, as a geologist, one of my favorite parts is just a bit north of the parking lot. You got to walk about 5 or 10 minutes. But it's a nice outcropping of Frida sandstone. Now you'll be seeing my shadow in these shots because the shadows are getting long. The day's wearing on. I got out here a few hours later than I wanted to. But these sandstones can be pretty interesting. They come out of the lake at an angle. And the reason they do is because they overlie a massive amount of basalt that was erupted 1 billion years ago as part of one of the largest eruptions the Earth has ever seen. And basalt is heavy, and it sank, and it pulled these rocks down with it, and so they're kind of bowl-shaped. They come out in an angle here, and on the other side of the lake, way out there, they come out at an opposite angle, going flat way down deep somewhere out in the center of Lake Superior. The layering on these rocks is beautiful. It's intricate layering. And in fact, when you get a close-up look at some of these, they almost look like topographic maps. The patterning, the grooves, they're really beautiful. I feel like a lot of people walk over these rocks, but they don't take a moment to appreciate their beauty up close. Look at that. Looks just like a topographic map. And in fact, it is a topographic map. Think about it. Each one of these light and dark colored layers is completely flat, horizontal compared to the original way it was deposited. And so the wavy lines you're seeing are actually contours in the rock itself.
It's a nature-made topographic map of the geologic unit. As an igneous rocks guy, I usually describe sandstones as really, really boring, but this morning I was at the Jacobsville sandstone, which is not boring at all, and now I'm at the Frida, which has its own beauty. Not so gorgeous from far away, but a distinct beauty close up. Let's look at that topographic layering here. Now you do see preserved ripple marks in some places along this sandstone. That's what you're seeing here. From an ancient stream, almost 1 billion years ago.
These sandstones don't simply stop at the water's edge though. They continue right beneath the surface and continue out into the lake. What you're seeing now is a literal bird's eye view of the Frida sandstone as it goes beneath the water. On the lens of my drone's camera is a circular polarizing filter that cuts through the glare of sunlight reflected from the water's surface. This is the same type of filter that occurs naturally in the eyes of seabirds, allowing them to cut through the glare and spot fish beneath the water. Here though, we're taking a look at the rocks beneath the surface, and aren't they beautiful? Of course, if you were a seabird passing over the area, your only interest in the rocks would be avoiding them when diving for fish. But for us, we can appreciate the way these rocks extend out into the lake. And maybe it's just because I'm a geologist, but I find it incredibly beautiful.
This is a pretty awesome place, but make sure you wear suitable shoes. You don't want to be out here in bare feet probably. That's a nice piece. It is rough on your feet, and it is very unstable walking on these rocks. Flip-flops are real tough. You know, real shoes, regular shoes are great, but then you get them wet and you're miserable for the rest of the day. So I recommend a good pair of river shoes. What I wear out here now is a pair of what they're called barefoot running shoes. They're made for running, to simulate running in bare feet. It's supposed to be healthier for you. All it did is really mess up my tendons and ligaments, and I couldn't run and barely walk for about a year. So yeah, no more of that, but they do make great river shoes. This is what I'm talking about here. These guys are really great for handling the water. And that rock that distracted me just now as I was talking was this guy. I don't think it's an agate, but it's kind of interesting. I might get it wet in just a moment. Ooh. Have a look at this beautiful flow-banded rhyolite. I did a video about rhyolites recently, and if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But this is a gorgeous rhyolite. Let's get both these guys wet. I know at least one of y'all got mad at me for not wetting my rocks. Said you couldn't see them well enough. I'm not sure I buy that, but I just got my pants wet, so I hope y'all are happy. Okay, let's see. Do we see these a whole lot better now? The selfie stick certainly doesn't like it. All right, there we go. I mean, we see this one well enough to confirm it's definitely not an agate. Pretty. Let's have a look at this flow-banded rhyolite. Oh yeah, catching the sunlight there. Nice and dark. That's a beauty. As you would know if you watched my video about rhyolites, the flow banding occurs because the lava is so thick as it's erupted that it slides past it. It slides past itself is the best way to describe it. And as it shears, it creates those bands in there called flow banding. That's a take-home piece. This is a piece of granite. It is an alkali granite. Potassic granites or case bar granites. No. Scratch it. That is not an alkali granite. It is plagioclase rich granite. I sometimes forget there's so many words that mean the same thing in geology. Alkali granites are your case bars, and they tend to be your real pink granites. This is not pink. This is speckled black and white. Almost like, looks like TV static to me. There's another piece of the same, but with just a lot less black in it. Go over here. What do we have? We have another piece of granite. I'm gonna have to reposition myself. And there's a piece right next to it that I wanted to show off. You roll down, is that this guy? Let's wet that and have a look at it. That looks to me to be a quartzite, but it's got a lot of veining running through it. It's a very interesting one. I see little flecks of red in there. That's something you sometimes see in quartzites. A quartzite starts off its journey as a sandstone, but undergoes metamorphism. The quartz grains fuse together, eventually becoming one solid mass of quartz. Very often a quartzite hasn't gone all the way through that process, but you see it somewhere frozen in between. This one looks like it's pretty advanced though. Very nice piece. See over here we have porphyritic rhyolite. Those red rhyolites around here. Now, unlike that flow-banded rhyolite, this guy is full of phenocrysts, these blocky cubic crystals. Those were formed in a magma chamber down deep and carried up with the magma. Over here we got some sandstones. This is probably from the local Frida sandstone that's in the area here. And here we have a basalt. Is that amygdaloidal or porphyritic? It might be both. I see phenocrysts, and I see stuff that might be filled amygdals. Let's see what else we can find here. We got more sandstone in a little pile here. Oh, what's this guy? Is this an alkali granite or is this a rhyolite? That's a real fine ground mass. That's a rhyolite. Probably, yeah, that's a porphyritic rhyolite. You see those blocky crystals. Those phenocrysts in there. We have here, this is an awfully green one. A lot of the basalts in the area have undergone some slight metamorphism to become what we call metamorphic greenstone. Basically, they begin altering the epidote. This isn't super green, doesn't have a lot of epidote in it, but it is slightly green. I call that a metamorphic greenstone. Look at the bands in that. Is that those preserved ripples? They are not. They're not raised up at all. So what we're seeing is some banding in that. That's some layering. Interesting. It's a sandstone, by the way. Looks to be a pretty fine-grained sandstone. I don't see big sand grains in there. It's pretty fine grained. That's a pretty granite. If you're a fan of granites, you'll probably like this guy here. Lots of pretty colors in that. Blacks and pinks and salmons, and it's a nice one. If you like banding, have a look at this guy here. Let's get them wet without soaking myself. What do we have here? We have another flow banded rhyolite. Look at the great banding in that. Fantastic. Another pretty granite. You could even call this an unakite, because if you look at that, you see that green epidote in there. Now generally I like it to have a lot more epidote before I call it an unakite, but it is just a rock shop term. It's not actually defined. I tried to discover exactly what percentage epidote it has to be called unakite, and the answer is whatever you want it to be. Here's a piece of, well, I'm not entirely sure. Could be chert. Could be a very fine-grained sandstone or a siltstone that's just been weathered. This bluish guy, not entirely sure. I'd want to crack them open to find out, but I don't have my rock hammer with me. I don't bring my rock hammer to the beach. I feel like people don't want to see me smashing open rocks on the beach, ruining the look of things for everybody else. Uh-oh, what is that? Get in focus, get in focus, get in focus. Is this a giant agate? It has potential. You know, these big ones, if they're real obvious, they've all been picked up already, but it's the not so obvious ones that get left behind by people. All right. What do we see here now is what? Are you agate? Ooh. I think so. Now this isn't a very desirable piece as is, but the question becomes, yes, this is definitely agate in here with most of the rind intact. This is a giant agate with barely visible bands sticking out. Whew, that is a big hefty boy, and it is incredibly ugly. However, when cut and or polished, it will be gorgeous. And in 1 to 73 years, when I have time to actually start working my rocks and polishing them and cutting them like I've always dreamt of, this will be stunning. And on whatever platform I'm broadcasting from in 70 years, when this thing gets cut and polished, I will share it with you. Whew! That was random. You were just poking out of this little slope of rocks here. What else can we find here? There's another one that's a little suspicious. Probably not. You know, the ones that really catch my eye are the ones that are very glossy. You see this gloss on it. See the way it's reflecting the sunlight? Now that doesn't guarantee it's an agate at all. But it suggests that it's extremely fine-grained. Very, very nicely crystalline. Now it could just be a chert or something else, but it could also be an agate. So let's wet it, see if there's anything on here to suggest it's an agate, and absolutely not. Nope, in fact it might just be a very fine-grained sandstone or a siltstone. But it had that sheen on it that I look for. I mean, that's how I found the last one, so you can't say the system doesn't work. It just gives false negatives sometimes. Whew, look at this guy. Sometimes you find odd fellows like this. What is this? It's likely to be chert wedged between some limestone or something like that. People always send messages like, hey, I found a fossilized shark tooth. No, you didn't, but it's cool looking. This is a nice piece of quartzite. This is classic quartzite. You can see, if it focuses, you can see a little bit of graininess in it. You see those reds in there? That you often get little tiny flecks of red in a quartzite. Not always, and it's not required at all. It's just something you see a lot of. This is a sandstone where the quartz grains have partially fused. And the quartz grains haven't actually fused all that well in this one. This is not a very advanced quartzite. All right, what else are we gonna find here? I gotta wrap this up pretty soon. My family's waiting for me. But it's hard for me to stop when I'm finding cool stuff. See all these reds here? These are almost all rhyolites. There's a lot of rhyolite on this beach. The rhyolites are here mostly because we got Frida sandstone on our right, which means on our left, above us, is probably Copper Harbor conglomerate, if I've got my stratigraphy right. Oh, hello, cute little frog. So, the Copper Harbor conglomerate, if you'll recall from my video on rhyolites, where I talked a little bit about that conglomerate, is pretty much made out of just rhyolite. And so these are the recycled rhyolites you're seeing here that were weathered away from rhyolite mountains a billion years ago, were then deposited and locked in place in the Copper Harbor conglomerate, and then more recently, in the last few thousand years, weathered out and appeared on this beach here. It'd be awesome if these rocks once again lithified into another conglomerate and continued the cycle, but honestly that's not something that's likely to happen. In this place, I would say the most likely thing is these rhyolites will weather into sand and eventually just disappear. Or maybe they'll make a nice sandstone. How about this? What do we got here? Oh, I had hopes for that. I thought maybe with that weird banding in there it'd be an agate, but this looks like it's probably a chert. Oh, you know what? This is a highly silicified limestone. That's a fossil in there. So I thought with maybe agate banding was a fossil. Neat. You actually don't find fossils up here very much. It's part of the glacial material that was washed down here. Generally, the rocks around here are far too old to have fossils in them. Now, before the previous ice age, there would have been fossil-bearing units around here, but they just aren't here anymore. They were all bulldozed and sent down to lower Michigan, Wisconsin, and Ohio. That's all right. Puppy wanted to be part of this video. Can't blame him. Well, I turned off the camera just a moment ago, and what I do, I immediately came across these two guys. First, maybe I only saw them because I turned the camera off. If I was standing through the camera, maybe I wouldn't have seen them. So let's get them wet. There we are. One of these is likely to be nothing at all. Could be this guy. He's nothing, but this one here, let's get it in the light and get it in focus. Please focus. Come on. Can you see banding in that? Yes, we can. There it is. It's in focus. That definitely has banding in it. That is 100% an agate. Colorful? Not very. But I bet once polished up, it'll look gorgeous.
And on that note, and with virtually no introduction to the change in scenery, I dive beneath the waves. I've switched to my snorkeling gear. I've got a face mask, a snorkel, some fins on my feet, and a wetsuit to keep me warm, although the water was pretty nice. I didn't actually need it that day. Why do I go snorkeling out here? Well, I operate under the theory that some of the best stones are probably beneath the waves where people aren't looking for them. Now in practice, I virtually never find anything better underneath the water than I do on the shore. But I haven't been doing this very long. And mostly, I'm just going out because it's very relaxing. Now, it may not look very relaxing to you with me bobbing around in the waves here, but just floating weightless there and gazing at the rocks is really enjoyable. Right here, I'm reaching down to pick up a little piece of chert, but I'm just going to toss it right back because we've looked at enough of that today. But yeah, the conditions out here aren't really ideal on this day. I chose this day to go to Gratiot River County Park because the conditions were better than what they had been and what they were going to be for the rest of my visit, in terms of there not being any stormy weather and giant waves that would drown me. But the waves were a bit choppier than I would have liked, and the visibility a little bit less than I would have preferred, due to recent storm activity. Let's see, what have we got here? Looks like a little granite, probably. I'm out here mostly looking for agates, but any beautiful stone will do. And here we've got, another granite. As you can see, the overwhelming majority of rocks are rhyolites and basalts. Here we got a pretty little amygdaloidal basalt or rhyolite, but if it comes into focus, you might notice there's a little bit of banding in those amygdals. So there is agate all throughout that piece, little tiny agate. I'm not too prejudiced against little agates. That guy I'll tuck away in my wetsuit and carry with me. Now I really hope this footage doesn't make any of y'all seasick watching it. The waves were pushing me around just a little bit more than I would have preferred. If this is causing motion sickness to any of you guys to watch, please let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll post less content like this in the future. On the other hand, if you're enjoying this, please let me know, and I'll try to post better versions of content like this in the future. We got another amygdaloidal, well, this looks pretty red. That's got to be a rhyolite. These big blocks you see underneath the surface, those are going to be the Frida sandstone that we saw both from the bird's eye view and from the shore previously. Ooh, is this a big agate? Definitely not. Now you see striping in there. You might be wondering to yourself if it is, but I use feel a lot out there, and I could feel a very rough, grainy texture on it. So I know that was a sandstone of some sort. And the waves are getting a little choppier here. And believe it or not, as choppy as this is here, there's a lot of footage I edited out because I was just being slammed into the rocks. I tried to go into the shallower water, and the waves just at that moment decided to get about 3 inches taller and really start battering me. And here we have another granite. You see that silvery bit on there? That's not actually silver. In granites, you get shiny muscovite mica that has a silvery sheen to it, and that's what you're seeing in that. Those are silvery mica flakes in there, called muscovite. We're going over that Frida sandstone now. Pretty boring as you go over it here like this, as beautiful as it is from high up and from the shore. Out here it's just a solid block of rock. Especially when you're looking for agates, you kind of want to get past that and look for your pebbles. You can see that layering though underneath here, which is pretty cool. That was a layered sandstone we just passed, if you saw that layered rock there. I'm looking for light colored stones that have any kind of striping in them. That was a granite, I just tossed that away. I'm avoiding the dark colored rocks because those are unlikely to be agates. I'm really looking for anything that's light colored with some interesting patterning in it. Oof, okay, yeah, here I've ventured into the shallower water and I'm getting beaten up a little bit by the waves. I am going to try to find some stuff here. As you can see, the stones here are smaller but far more numerous than they were in the slightly deeper water. So I'm hoping, well, maybe if I'm going to find agates, they won't be as big here, but maybe my odds of finding one are going to be better over here where there's more rocky material in general. However, this was a lot less relaxing for me over here. I really didn't enjoy this part. I wouldn't go into shallow water like this again when there's waves of any height. And while it might be comical to watch me slammed into the rocks for no good reason whatsoever, I really didn't film very good content out here. So let's cut away from that and go back to the shore. All right, I've joined my wife here, who
Fi doesn't want to be on camera in her bathing suit, so let's focus on what she found.
Yeah,
Oh, you
I
found some pretties.
some pretty rocks. Look at that. Very transparent,
Nice.
translucent, and the pink rock here.
When are we gonna go to the hot tub?
We'll go to the hot tub when we're not at the beach.
Where is? Oh, this. This is my really
Oh, beautiful.
cute. Is that nice? I don't exactly know what it is, but gorgeous.
That's beautiful.
Right?
That's probably patricianite, pink prehnite. Interesting. Beautiful. So dark colored. There's a beautiful pink to it. Look at that. Catching that sunlight. That's a gorgeous find.
This one that I love.
Found this one also. Why does this look like a frog who's staring at me? That's about as transparent as they come. Now, does it have nice banding on it? No, but there is a band of color inside that almost perfectly transparent piece. All right, I'm gonna look for some agates myself. All right, well, there's basically two methods for searching for agates. And I compare them to playing the slot machines. It is a luck-based game mostly. There are people who will walk the whole beach just the same way there are people who will walk to the casino and play every slot machine once, hoping to get lucky. And then there's the people who sit down at a single slot machine with $100 worth of quarters and just play all day. And that's the way I do it. I like to sit down with my family, that I've got behind me here, and just start digging. And I'll tell you what, those rocks just below the surface, they haven't been picked over. So I find some really good stuff. Let's see what I can find here. And we'll do it in real time too. All right, let's start right here. I'll just begin scraping it away. Scraping it away. We're gonna look for anything that's colorful, that stands out, anything with banding, anything with clarity. And this is where I come in with the voiceover to tell you that I found very little out there sitting directly in front of the parking lot, just a few feet away from the car. Even with my sweeping technique, removing the picked over rocks at the surface, there just wasn't much. So let's just cut to what I did find. Well, the sun is setting, and I'm gonna sit down, eat a pasty, and get ready for tonight's super light hunt. So let's take a look at what I found here. Give me a little rinse here so y'all don't yell at me about showing you dry rocks. And have a seat. All right. Okay. So, about 10 minutes of digging and sifting through rocks. I didn't find any great agates, but you know what? The family parked themselves right in front of the parking lot, so it's going to be a little more picked over. But let's have a look at a few of these. Let's see here. This is a pretty epidote. Always partial to the green rocks. And this is a pretty epidote. On a closer inspection, I'll leave it here for somebody else. This one here, to the untrained eye, you might think this is a agate, but it's not. It's a granite where the red feldspars just look like they're kind of floating in the quartz. Awfully pretty. I like that. Here's a beautiful green epidote with lots of other white crystals running through it. Not exactly sure what those are, just by looking at it like so. I hope this video is capturing the green. It's really nice. guy here is starting to dry out a little bit. It's probably just a quartzite, but it's got some interesting patterns in it, which makes me wonder if it gets polished up, if it's not going to reveal something agate or agate-like. Here's a little weirdo. Looks like maybe a gneiss with some garnets, but it's very strange. I'm not entirely sure what we've got here. Keep in mind that as a geologist, we're trained to look at rock units and seeing rocks in context. Seeing rocks in their surroundings, seeing rocks, in the unit means, with, several 100 billion tons of neighboring rock. So when we see an isolated weirdo on a beach, it's a little bit harder for us to suss it out. This guy looks to be chalcedony, but could have a little agate banding inside once it gets polished. It's hard to say. This guy is a little piece of Michigan Thompsonite. I wish the color would stand out better, but unfortunately it's the same color as my fingers, so I suppose it all kind of blends in. So pretty neat. Here's a piece of red chalcedony. Red chalcedony is almost always, I should scratch that, always associated with agate around here. And whether or not this has agate in it, or whether this is just a piece that broke off of a much nicer agate and doesn't have any banding in it, I'm not sure. Let's show a couple at a time here. This is a beautiful granite here. Probably a granite. But little flowers of green and pink in there, gorgeous. This guy here, a little bit harder to say, but maybe he's got some prehnite running through that. And this guy, another piece of that red chalcedony. I found a couple pieces of that stuff out here. And do you see banding in that? Maybe. I don't know. How about the others here? Bunch of little tiny ones here. Let's see here. That's some green epidote. That's some chalcedony. That's something with some weird striping in there. It's probably not an agate. Little ball of chalcedony here. Not sure whether it'll have agate banding in it. Another broken piece of chalcedony here. Yeah, so, not bad. Well, thanks for joining me at Gratiot River County Park, a beautiful beach with gorgeous rocks and miles of coastline for you to explore. I recommend, if you want to explore at all, you don't do like I do and get here at 6 p.m. You get here a bit earlier than that, because there is just so much beautiful snorkeling, beautiful rocks all over, and if you stay at night, there's Uper lights out here. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.